Welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I'll be covering every studio song the band has recorded and every bonus track that I can find. Each week we'll go over a new song from the beginning to where they are currently, and as they keep adding albums, I'll keep adding shows. Let the deep dive party begin.
In the magic garden, some were singing, some were dancing.
Hello and welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I am your host, Scott Haskin, and we are on season 14. That is album 14 that was recorded by this wonderful band, Uriah Heep, that we're here to talk about. And this song is called On The Rebound. Now, there are a number of cover songs on this album, and, I don't know what the reason behind it was, but I can say that sometimes it's good for a band, especially, if they're pretty much a new band getting together, to, not stress so much on writing new things, the pressure of the record company and all that, but just have some fun, do some songs they think would work with the band, with their new sound, get to know each other musically. And so there are a number of covers on this album. This is the first one that we're going to go over, and it was written by Russ Ballard. You guys may know Russ Ballard if you are fans of Rainbow, the songs Since You've Been Gone from the album Down to Earth, as well as I Surrender from the album Difficult to Cure, were both written by Russ Ballard. And there's damn good songs, I gotta say. Now, we're going to get right into the song here so we can get a taste of what we're talking about. Here is On The Rebound.
On the rebound, that's how you felt for me.
Okay, that was a pretty cool but very fast synthesizer opening. Didn't really get enough of it to get the gist of what it was, how it relates to the song, what it means. It's just more of a little effect to kick the song off. That kick drum sounds very electronic to me. If it isn't, that is some very interesting recording techniques, because that sounds very, very electronic to me. David Goalby sounds great, though. I really like his voice. Very strong, very powerful. I don't really know yet the scope of his range as a vocalist. And, especially you think coming into a band like Uriah Heep, you're going to want somebody that has a pretty broad range. But I don't know where he's at yet. So we're going to find that out as time goes on. I'm sure as we get through a few more songs, we'll see, the full breadth of what he can do. But I like the sound of it. It sounds very tight, very cohesive. But yeah, I'm suspicious of that bass drum. In fact, I would say the bass guitar sound is probably a keyboard and not an actual bass. It has that keyboard feel to it. It doesn't really have that huge bottom end that you get from a bass guitar, and especially in that particular pitch. But yeah, that feels more like a keyboard.
That's how you changed my life. You cut me like a knife. On the rebound, on the rebound. You came, you saw, you took. It only took one look. And lady, I was hooked. On the rebound, it's a rebound.
Okay, what the hell just happened? So there were a couple of really cool effects in there that I really liked, and the song just kind of snapped into, oh yeah, we're a rock band. Let's sound like a rock band. And it does. It sounds really good here. It was interesting because the song, seemed to have a lot of open space in it, with it just being the synth, the kick, and the vocalist, with a lot of reverb on it, by the way. There was a lot of reverb on the vocals. And now it sounds, like a full song. The band is all here. I do notice a difference in the kick drum, so I'm going to go back to saying that first kick drum is an electronic kick drum that was used just for the beginning of the song. Now, whether that was electronics that Lee was hitting or something that was programmed, obviously I have no clue. And it doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, that's what the song sounds like. So now we're getting into, okay, the band showed up. We're all playing together again. Let's see what happens next. Okay, if any of the other songs that we've gone over, I said, wow, they really sound like an 80s band here. I take it back because this is 80s band music right here. Very interesting synths being played. Very cool. I hear we're going back to the electronic kick again. And it could be a filter on his regular kick too, because you can use a filter and change sounds very easily for anything. But whatever it is, we're back to the electronic sound on the drums. Some really cool effects kicking back into the song again. This is really different.
On the rebound, you came and took my soul. You came and left a hole where your love used to be. On the rebound, he left you drowning in your tears. And after all these years, you give your pain to me. On the rebound.
Yeah, it's such an interesting way that they wrote the song. I mean, it's obviously very synth oriented, which is really funny because on the last episode I was talking about, or was it the first episode of the season? I was talking about how guitar oriented the band was sounding so far on this album, and here we've got a very synth dominated song. But that's fine. This is the time. This is the kind of stuff that people were writing. The British New Wave invasion was already hitting, and there were a lot of rock bands that were trying to compete with that because there was a lot of attention going to it. MTV was rolling by this point. So there was a lot of stuff going on, but this was kind of the flavor of the day. And it's really interesting because I've been to the Lost 80s Live concert 2 years in a row here in Las Vegas. Well, not last year, obviously, but what was really fascinating to me was these bands that I thought were full bands were really only like two people, and they didn't put a live team together, a live band together. They just went out and performed as the two of them. So here you've got a keyboard player who's triggering all the music, and then like a singer who's out front that doesn't do anything but sing. And all the sounds are coming from the keyboard player, at which most of the time he's just kind of standing there. It was just bizarre. And I never realized that that's how music was done back then because I was too young to be going to concerts. So I didn't get to see a lot of those bands until, more recently. But I can say to see bands like Missing Persons, A Flock of Seagulls, that was really cool. And they were full bands. But some of these bands, like it was literally like one guy behind a keyboard and a singer out front. And they didn't even give her a keyboard to make it look like she was triggering anything. And it's really weird to watch that on stage. So at least with what Uriah Heep is doing is they're mixing in everyone in the band with a combination of this electronic style. So you're getting a little bit of both worlds, which I think is actually pretty cool. And I think they've blended it very well. It's just weird to hear like this much synth and very little guitar. The guitar that we're hearing there right before the part we're at now is very muted. It's kind of strange and a little bit different, but this is 1982. So that's the time. That was a nice exchange between guitar and keyboard. I liked that the keyboard was really just kind of like a little more filler for the solo, but that sounded pretty cool. I really like the exchange. I think it's interesting to hear the lead guitar in the right ear and the keys in the left for a change. That's not the way things have been up to this point through the first 13 albums. So that's kind of a nice switch, but also I thought it was a stunning solo. Mick's got a little bit of effects on his guitar there, and that's, again, kind of just matching the day, so it's not too rock and roll. It's kind of got a little bit of that 80s feel to it, but I like it. It's not so over-affected that I can't hear what he's playing, and he's really, he's moving on that. So very cool stuff. It's just such an interesting song because it's got both spectrums, and it's very diverse. I have to admit, I really like the song, but I would love to have heard an alternative version that was really just the band playing, without the without all the layers of synthesizer, and just to have guitar be the main instrument, have the bass and the drums really kind of pushing the rhythm and making it really hit my chest. I would love to hear a version like that, because I think this is a very powerful song. I think it would have been great as a straightforward rock and roll song. Obviously, again, we're talking 1982, so it's understandable why they took this direction. And again, we've got a different producer too, so whole different approach. Everything's changed in this band except for Mick Box. So it's interesting. I like the version. I like the way that Peter Goalby sounds on this song, especially with the backing vocals. I think it sounds really good. But there's just areas where the music really backs off so much that it kind of sounds almost too thin. And you can do that in the beginning of a song and be fine. You can do that if you're setting it up for one of those, let's just hit the bass drum and have the crowd sing the song kind of parts. But it feels kind of weird to have it, so rich and full and then just drop out so much of the sound and just be, empty again or reasonably empty. It just thins out a little too much for me. But I think it's a good song. The songs that Rainbow did from Russ Ballard, they were much more straightforward rock and roll. So I don't know if this was Heep's interpretation or if this was something that had been planned out, if this is the way that Russ Ballard wrote it. But either way, I think it's a good song. Is it just me, or is that a really bizarre progression on the bass? Or synth bass, I should say, because that definitely sounds like a keyboard. But I don't know, that the note order is just really interesting. It's not bad. It's just different. And I mean, of course, Heep is known for doing that anyway. It's kind of been a while though since we've heard anything like that. So it's nice to have a little return to that, and it's a little out of the blue, but I definitely dig it. One thing I will say about the 80s is that they did, I'm not talking about Heep, I'm talking in general, they did tend to be very chorus repetitive during the 80s. So we'll see how much Heep does of this as we go through the album. But I like the song. I think it's different. I think it's got a unique feel to it. I like the layering of the synths. I think it's got some really interesting sound choices in there to build things. I just find it a little almost awkward when it backs off so much that there's just too much room available in the sound field all of a sudden. But overall, I like the song. I think it had a great solo in it. I think that the vocal is great. The drums kick in some really nice stuff here and there. I honestly can't say what's happening on bass because I don't really know how much of that is, Bob Daisley versus a keyboard. And it could be that there's some synth bass thing out there that I don't know about because I really wasn't following bass back in through this time. So it very well could be Bob Daisley, but either way, it's an interesting pattern that's being played on it through the whole thing. And overall, I think it's a good song. I really like it. So that will wrap it up for this episode, guys. We'll see what happens in the next episode as we continue our journey through Abominog. Have a great couple days, guys. We'll see you soon. Cheers. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. If you have enjoyed this show, please consider going over to Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast outlet, leaving a rating or a review. Be sure to subscribe to make sure that you are notified when new episodes are available. Please be sure to share this podcast with your fellow Uriah Heep enthusiasts and anyone who you think would like Uriah Heep, which should be everyone. And if you are so inclined, please feel free to contribute to the Patreon account. And if you are not a Patreon subscriber, you can also pay through the PayPal link on the website listed in the show links below. I would also like to thank Uriah Heep for their very generous support of the show, and thank you guys for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Happy days!